Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Friday, January 23, 2026 and I am Abdul Majid Awan.
And I am Ward Ahmed, and for today's headlines, DAMAC has secured $12 billion in U.S. AI data center projects. There is no plan B. This was from Jared Kushner's speech yesterday in Davos regarding his Gaza plan, which we will go more into further on in the show. And the OpenAI founder is trying to raise $50 billion in the Middle East.
Very important news, very interesting news.
It's crazy what's going on right now. I'm seeing Mohammed bin Ghati meeting with Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the president of Egypt. I mean, like, what is going on in the world right now?
World Economic Forum is going on. Davos, the last day is today. It's a very interesting event. Mr. Trump gave a whole speech there mostly about Greenland, but he was obviously in cider circles. A lot of people reported that he was very praiseful of the Middle East because obviously he's building so much here.
He got so many trillions.
Yeah, Trump has the Trump Tower in Dubai coming.
Trump Jeddah Plaza. And you know what shocked me the most, and I didn't realize this until I did the video, is that they in fact signed on to this $10 billion deal, and it's basically like this barter for them to build more Trump projects across Riyadh and Jeddah, and I think they're just going to keep going. You know, they're not going to stop at a tokenized Maldives resort.
So Dar Global is basically building it. Dar Al Arkan is the main company which builds inside Saudi Arabia.
They're London listed.
Yeah, and their outside builders, the subsidiary which builds outside of Saudi Arabia is Dar Global. Dar is, right? Dar is like door, house. What does Dar mean in Arabic?
Dar. No, not door. I think it's just Dar.
Dar has some meaning in Arabic, but it's Arabic Dar. It's we call it Dar Global because the West loves to Westify the Arabic words also. But Dar Global is basically who is building all of this. It's a big company. It's one of the biggest developers in Saudi Arabia. It's a lot of things going on during World Economic Forum. Elon Musk came yesterday. Very interestingly, Elon Musk surprise entry into World Economic Forum. Larry Fink interviewed him from BlackRock. So Larry Fink is usually a guest.
Interesting dynamic, you know.
I think Larry Fink personally invited him. Otherwise, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago the last time Elon Musk came to it. But obviously, it's World Economic Forum, and if you don't have the richest person in the world, with
I like Larry for this because you see him, Majid, make like multiple visits to the Middle East. This was one that we didn't cover, but I know that he met with the leadership of Kuwait. Larry Fink.
Oh, yeah,
he met
Larry
with the
Fink.
leadership of Kuwait, and
no, we did the story where he went there and he's doing something with the sovereign wealth fund.
It's the fact that he has these meetings and he's not afraid to not to have them. Like, he knows he's a big guy, but he's like, well, to keep getting big money, we need to keep talking to these big people.
And BlackRock is one of the partners in, if you want the Elon Musk connection, there is a $30 billion AI infrastructure fund in Abu Dhabi, which BlackRock is a part of, SoftBank and Masayoshi Son are a part of. OpenAI was a part of it, so Elon Musk had to get into it, and now XAI is also a part of that $30 billion infrastructure fund. That $30 billion from all these people will be used to build more data centers.
Yes.
Everyone is building a data center.
And DAMAC is definitely into that. So Dubai-based DAMAC says that it has secured land and power capacity worth $12 billion for artificial intelligence data centers in the United States, putting the group more than halfway towards its $20 billion investment plan announced in the beginning of last year as they expand aggressively into digital infrastructure.
And speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Chairman Hussain Sajwani told CNBC the sites represent around 1 gigawatt of capacity. We have today about 1 gigawatt of land, which would be about $12 billion, he said, adding the full target should be reached within 2 to 4 years.
The push builds on a plan unveiled in early 2025 alongside U.S. President Donald Trump, who phrased Sajwani's commitment as an honor that would keep America on the cutting edge of AI. I just think this is so ironic, and the projects are being developed through DAMAC's digital infrastructure arm, EdgeNex.
And Hadley Gamble has joined us on the show live on Instagram. So if you're watching, hi Hadley. But DAMAC has already secured sites in Ohio and New Jersey, and it's assessing further locations in Texas, focusing on areas with strong electricity supply. Sajwani said Power availability is the key constraint for modern AI and cloud computing data centers, which require massive, reliable energy.
Furthermore, the U.S. expansion comes alongside EdgeNext's $3 billion push, and not many people know this, into Southeast Asia, and a growing relationship between DAMAC and Trump, which does include plans for a Trump Tower in Abu Dhabi. Now, Sajwani said the U.S. remains the world's largest data center market, despite global trade and the tariff uncertainty. I think with this entire story, it just does remind me of Tariq Amin, the Jordanian-born CEO of Humane, the new artificial intelligence company in Saudi Arabia, and him saying what they're trying to do with Saudi is that they're trying to make it the third largest infrastructure provider in the world. And the link to Sajwani here is the fact that, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for this, Majid. I would say that probably the first Dubai billionaire who, really prioritized his relationship with Donald Trump is definitely him.
Yeah.
And it was even after he went out of power and he wasn't president for a while, but Sajwani knew, Trump is coming back and, we need to keep these relations up. And he doesn't just focus on the U.S., but he also focuses on Saudi Arabia. I'm pretty sure that he's investing into data center capacity in Jeddah, in Dammam. There's lots of plans for that. So I think for me, it's also that, you remember we watched the speech that very morning that it came out between Hussein Sajwani and Trump, the $20 billion, and to actually see it come to reality, I think that this is something extremely big for a Dubai billionaire, and their expansion strategy is really working.
Lala CEO, hello, hi, he's saying hi. But apart from that, I think the thing that you're talking about, the Saudi wants to be the biggest. Just a little correction or just adding on to, they want to be the biggest compute power in the world. There is a slight difference between infrastructure and computing power. Computing power is you can build a small data center but install more chips. Data center wise, you need a lot of space and all that. Depends, very complicated sciences. Basically what's happening is that Middle East and UAE and everyone here is trying to be the first one to become the superpower in the world. US is difficult to beat in this, very difficult actually, but it can be done, and China has shown us time and again that it can be done on a lot of platforms. They've done it in conventional trade. They're doing it in AI. I was reading something yesterday, very interesting numbers, that China's AI industry right now is valued. There's everything. So the infrastructure that they've built, the startups that they have in AI, and if you combine the whole AI industry of China, it is nearly 1.5 times more valued than the US right now. So if you sell all of China's AI, everything, the infrastructure plus the startups plus everything, and you sell the US, so if you get 100 for US, you'll get 150 for China. So it can be done. So Middle East, if they're being ambitious about all of this, it's not undoable, and they've shown us. They've signed so many partnerships.
That is true.
Humane, we talk about it a lot, but MGX is one of the silent ones in all of this. I always think that MGX and Humane, we don't do the comparison. It's not a comparison on terms of, who's better, who's bigger. Comparison in terms of both have the same strategy, both are investing in AI, both are state-controlled entities which will invest in AI. MGX started before Humane. Humane is a little more flashier because I think
I just think they have a lot of money.
Both have the same amount of money. Actually, right now, MGX has more money. They've invested in more. They have $100 billion AUM under them. They started at $2 billion. So imagine within 1.5 years, they started last year around March. Sorry, not 1.5. They started in March last year, so 2.5 years. Humane in that time, obviously, comparison-wise, Humane has done more. But I still think Humane is more flashier because of Tariq Amin. He comes from a digital background. He knows how to market the product better. But Abu Dhabi and UAE are very good at keep doing the stuff, but don't market it too much. MGX is great in this. They've invested in OpenAI. The recent meeting that we will talk about the story that he's coming here. He's not coming here to talk to anyone else apart from MGX, because MGX's whole role is to invest in AI. That's what it is made for. So UAE has very nice structures in place. I think Humane is clearly an offshoot, or the idea or the blueprint for a humane comes from MGX.
But I think, Majid, that there's something that these companies specifically have in common, and that they are government entities.
Yes.
These are companies that are owned by the government, operated by the government, and thus funded by the government.
Yes.
And the reason for me why I find Hussein Sajwani so inspiring is because, and not many people notice this because of how well DAMAC have done for themselves. And, it's the fact that his dad, he used to work in Deir al-Souk, and he used to sell watches.
Yeah.
That's what his dad was up to. And, for them to take their company as far as they have, and I remember I was speaking to a former employee of DAMAC, and they were telling me something so crazy. They were like, Hussein Sajwani is so into the details that he will even look into what are the guests, what is the kind of food that the guests are being served in the events. And I mentioned him and him being inspiring because, look at it, Majid. When Stargate UAE, when the announcement came out, the largest data center outside of the US, it's coming to the UAE, to Abu Dhabi. We saw Elon Musk, according to the Wall Street Journal, he had a breakdown. He was like, damn, y'all didn't include me. But what I like about Hussein Sajwani is that, because notice how these different network of billionaires operate. For them to get richer sometimes, they include themselves in these projects, which is, hey, that's fair play. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you notice with Hussein Sajwani, his process, his strategy, it's been in growing his own business. Yes. He is not concerned about, joining the different big projects that are happening right now. And I know that they would probably love to, but rather growing their own independent wealth and business. And I think that this is something that does need to be emphasized. They really have, I think, that entrepreneurship grit that they don't, it's because I know a lot of people like to throw in, by the way, oh, they're just funded by royals. Oh, they just got the government's help. No, there are a lot of, entrepreneurs who have really built from the ground up. And I think that he's a good example of it.
You look at all the stories in Dubai, in UAE, of all the guys who are big names, who we cover a lot. Al-Abbar, son of a trader, son of a captain of a ship. Hussein Sajwani, son of a person who was selling watches. Lulu, he's not Emirati, but Lulu founder, slept on the roof, was working at an uncle's bakala, small bakala, turned and built Lulu, which IPO'd last year, $2 billion they got from it. Every story starts from humble beginnings in this region, and that is the story of the region as well. It was a desert. There were people who were living in camps, and they eventually realized that there is a lot of power in unity. Saudi Arabia, UAE, we saw crucial states. Eventually, they became all together, and now we see this mammoth that has been created. It's just the power of unity. They all came together. If you're saying that someone was supported by the government or by the rulers or royals, what else would you want? It was people with money and influence helping people who had nothing but had great ideas for the future. That is how countries grow. That is how economies are built. That is how civilizations are built. That people with money, power, or whatever they have, they bring that. People with the willingness to put in the hard work, put in the hours, they come together, and eventually they form Smashi business also. So it's just the idea that you need to have a mix of everything.
But
every person brings their own specialty.
Look at Sunny Varkey right now, the Gems billionaire.
Humble beginnings again, right?
It was a humble beginnings, but if you notice, Majid, very recently he has been working with the government a lot, and I think that that's absolutely great news. And we see it with a very big project that is coming up. Mr. Beast taking a lot of influencers, Dubai influencers to Africa for this, this charity project that they have. I believe it's in Ghana.
But 20 influencers. He handpicked them.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that Sunny Varkey was a part of that, and I believe it was in partnership with His Highness
Foundation.
Sheikh Mohammed's foundation. So them coming together, but it's just maybe it's PR, maybe the Sajwanis are working with the government a lot. We don't know the extent of it. There's a lot going on there, but
sorry, before we move on, there's this one small thing that we didn't cover last year. It was more a charity thing, but we didn't cover it on business because it didn't make business sense. I think we covered one or two stories only. But there was a father endowment fund which was created last year. Just to add on to the example that these guys, if you say that they took someone's help, royals' help, government's help, or whatever from the whole country's help eventually, to build something, they give it back. Everyone was promising 1 million dirhams. I think the highest that I saw in that endowment was $10 million by one of the companies. So it's a very nice symbiotic relationship between the billionaires and the private companies and the government. The government supports them through everything that they have. The private companies build all of that, those services, industries for the government, because then the government markets all of these things for tourism. And eventually then these guys, when they become rich and make money, with the help of the government, they give it back in terms of charity, in terms of endowment campaigns. So it's not that just one person is giving and the other is taking. It's a very nice give and take relationship. So yeah, that's what's happening, but that's not what's going to happen in Gaza, right?
It is. I would say they're taking right now.
Yeah.
So Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and businessman, is facing backlash after presenting his Gaza master plan in Davos, where he was basically showing this slide deck for this new Gaza. And he was also breaking the territory into real estate development zones, boasting that there was no plan B.
I saw that plan, I zoomed in onto it, and they just marked it randomly. You look at it's a history of colonization, and when those colonials left, they divided countries on the basis of their whims. They just drew lines and were like, okay, this is this, and we're leaving. Exactly looks like that. Actually, this one has better, straighter lines. I don't know how you divide some countries or regions on straight lines. It's impossible. But they're trying to do it, and Jared Kushner also claimed Middle East cities can be built in 2 to 3 years. I think he was referring to Mr. Al-Bar's building being built in Abu Dhabi in 12 days, which was literally put together. But it's not that easy. If he thinks it is, let's see. Even as demolition and rubble removal is already underway in Gaza, that's what he said. We don't see it. But he didn't mention of how many bodies are still being found under the rubble. Very important point he missed, right?
Yeah, so many have called the pitch tone deaf. Well, I've called the pitch tone deaf, especially as Kushner described, and this is what he said word for word: 2 years of war involving around 90,000 tons of munitions and more than 60 million tons of rubble. This is exactly what came out of his mouth, and the reason why it's so wrong is he is completely overlooking the lives and and Israel's genocide in Gaza, killing around 70,000 people, and some numbers are still unknown.
And despite generous funding from Middle Eastern backers for his venture fund Affinity Partners, QIA has invested, PIF has invested, Abu Dhabi EDI has also invested in Affinity Partners. Kushner used the forum to outline a $30 billion redevelopment vision, with the first phase focused on a project he called New Rafah. Why do we need New Rafah? We already have Rafah.
So that framing jars, especially with Trump's Saudi speech, where he basically said the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region, as Kushner's language directly interferes with the regional trust, the diplomacy, the investment ties that is built with the region here. Yeah. I think the reason why many people have an issue with the entire proposal is the fact that his use of language is extremely derogatory. He just says those people, the people, and cities in the Middle East are just built within 2 to 3 years. These cities are already established.
Yeah.
It's quite horrifying to really see how it went. I just think that with his entire speech, he definitely has undermined the progress of the new Gaza board, the peace board by Donald Trump, because you obviously see that there are a lot of Middle Eastern countries that are jumping on it. They're excited for this peace, and for him to come and use such language, I think it's disappointing to see. But much more than that, it does undermine and downplay what they're doing.
I feel if you guys have access, actually everyone has access nowadays, just Google his speech. And if you want to know the crux of his whole speech, there is a point where he starts mentioning Israel, and then he says the Palestinian people. He doesn't say Palestine. He doesn't say Gaza. He never mentions it as a state. He says the state of Israel and the people of Palestine. He never mentions Palestine as a state. That shows you what they think and what the whole board of peace is about. It's a the Middle Eastern people invest. Saudi Arabia has signed it. Foreign Minister yesterday signed it. They're part of it now. Qatar has already signed it. They're part of it now. UAE has already signed it.
Khaldoon al-Mubarak is also a part of it, the CEO of Mubadala.
So the whole idea is that we talked about it in the start also, that there is going to be a whole board which was appointed on the basis of individuals. So that is there. But then state level contribution comes in terms of money. So yesterday I saw the whole list. It's a very long list of people who were brought as individuals. First, they made a board, and then to fund all the expansion and whatever you call it, or the reconstruction or rebuilding, now states have to come in also with their contributions. So it's a very complicated thing. A lot of people at the World Economic Forum called it another UN, and Trump was actually asked at World Economic Forum when he gave a speech 2 days ago, like, do you think this is an alternate UN that you're forming? And he was like, UN hasn't done what it's supposed to do. That is why I think my board of peace will do what the UN is supposed to do.
I just don't think they let the UN do what they're meant to do.
Yeah,
and we
he
saw
has
it with
veto
the
power.
Humanitarian Foundation.
So UN has a very simple structure. There is a Security Council which deals with all these problems. There's 5 countries in the world who have veto power to literally say no to anything. If even one country says veto to any decision, the whole, even if like all the Security Council members, there's like 12 founding members who cannot be replaced. Then there's members who are added after a period of 3 years, added or subtracted. So you can become a part of it. So 12 main members, and out of those 12, if 7 say yes to something, sorry, not even 7, 11 say yes to something, and then US, France, China, Russia, and the 4th one I'm forgetting, if any one of them says no, they outvote all those 11 members.
Yeah.
And that is what US has done throughout with the Gaza peace plan. Whenever there was a call in the UN Security Council to stop the massacre, the genocide, to stop the bombing, to stop the killing of kids, women, 70,000 people, I think the estimates are nearly 50%, minimum 50% of them were women and children. So whenever this was brought forward, we saw a different face from the US every time. For the first 3 times, it was the same woman, but then they keep changing faces. They kept changing the person who would go and sit in Security Council, because obviously doing that takes a lot of guts. I don't think those people will be mentally stable after allowing the killing of more kids. And, I don't understand how they would go home and look at their wives and sons and kids, where they came to the UN Security Council and vetoed the decision of bombing innocent kids and women.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the men. According to Israel, all men work for Hamas and all of them are terrorists. Okay, let's put that aside. What about the 35,000 to 40,000 women and kids? Were they also Hamas? How does a 1-year-old, a 6-month-old, a 7-month-old, 1-month-old kid, as up to like 12-year-old kids, how do you think they're Hamas agents? It's beyond comprehensible. And that is what the whole contention is about this board of peace also.
The way that they, really well said, Majid, the way that they put so many business processes in place, just like on a more ground level.
Yeah.
When that there was a time, and there were so many reports on this, of Palestinians, having to walk for a really long amount of time to basically go and receive the aid that the UN is sending. And every single time they would go, this aid, it was also being provided by Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. People were very devastatingly being shot when they were trying to receive that aid. And Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and this is where the companies come in, the consultancies, this is why BCG is under so much backlash and reputational damage. And it's because of the fact that they helped put together that humanitarian foundation for aid that Palestinians are coming to receive aid from, and losing their lives.
And the whole security and operations was handled by a CIA operative, former CIA operative. Like, how else do you make sense of it that even using humanitarian aid was, because that security company was getting paid. They were not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, right? So you made it a business process to just provide aid to people who your friendly country Israel has stopped aid to.
Yeah.
So you're even making money out of the misery of people.
But Majid, you know that BCG, according to the Financial Times, they signed $2 million in contracts across Israel. And the entire thing was basically BCG created this relocation model for Palestinian people to relocate. I believe that was to Somaliland, Somalia,
Yeah.
you had Jordan in there, I believe even Yemen. But now I'm just asking myself, like, who helped Jared Kushner make the PowerPoint? But just to, honestly,
AI.
Majid Mohammed Al-Abbar was definitely right to stay
Yeah.
very, very far away from
Yeah.
this. I think that he knows best with that. But let's talk about the Israeli billionaire that they're including in this. So Jared Kushner, in his speech, he spoke of someone called Yakir Gabay. Not sure if I'm really saying his name right, but if you actually look into this person, he doesn't really have much of a footprint. According to the Jerusalem Post, he hasn't had any voting, and he's based in Cyprus, and he has real estate assets in Germany and in Europe. And Jared Kushner, quote unquote, said, this is someone who cares about this from the bottom of his heart. So it's just. It's complicated because it's like, don't you put aside the fact that he's Israeli and the extreme conflict of interest there. Would you not want somebody who understands the land, the people, the language, the resources, much more than, someone operating in foreign areas far away? That means he doesn't know much about his own land even. But
it's been a playbook used by, again, I'll call them imperialists and colonialists. This is a colonial attempt at taking over Gaza. It's very clear. I don't know if anyone has called it this by now, but it is an attempt to take over. I think we need to clarify here that all the Middle Eastern countries that have signed this, they've signed with the intention that peace comes to Gaza one way or the other. The best thing actually is that they've signed it, because if you place me in the position of understanding it from a diplomatic angle or a political angle or any angle, if you don't have Middle East as a part of this, it's going to be a free rein for them to do whatever they want. That's the good part, that Saudi was like, no, we will sign it, we will be a part of it, and any decision you take will go through us. Qatar, the decision will go through us. UAE, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, he's there in the board. So all the decisions that will be made eventually, obviously this PowerPoint is not the final thing. There will be a lot of changes. There will be a lot of operational decisions that has to be taken.
OpenAI has already raised billions to fund its growing AI infrastructure, but the scale is accelerating.
And the company has committed to spending more than 1.4 trillion over coming years on computing power, data centers, and talent as demand for generative AI continues to surge globally.
Middle Eastern capital has become a key funding source for the AI sector. OpenAI has previously raised money from Abu Dhabi's MGX and partnered with G42 to build a large data center in the UAE known as Stargate UAE. Rivals like Anthropic and xAI are also courting Gulf-backed investors.
And finally, the fundraising push comes as competition intensifies. Alphabet's Google, Anthropic, and Elon Musk's SAI are all racing to build next-generation AI models. Bloomberg reports Anthropic is now seeking a new round at $350 billion valuation, underlining how fast capital requirements across the sector are rising.
And that's a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Smashi Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashi Business and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
Now we have Tajinder Virk from Finvasia Group. He's the co-founder and CEO of the group, and we had a very nice chat with him. So let's go to that. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Smashi Business Show. Today we have a very, very, very special guest, Mr. Tajinder Virk with us. And just to say a few words before we welcome him on the show, he's a former Wall Street hedge fund strategist and a serial entrepreneur with a global track record of building regulated, technology-led businesses over a career spanning more than 2 decades. That's a long time. He has managed multi-billion-dollar arbitrage and derivatives portfolios and gone on to found and scale platforms across fintech, health tech, real estate, one of the best things in Dubai right now, and next-gen infrastructure. Today, as co-founder and group CEO of Finvasia Group, he leads businesses across fintech, health tech, real estate, and digital infrastructure with operations spanning Europe, India, Africa, North America, Australia. It won't be wrong to say globally. His current focus is on rethinking global investing for a more connected, borderless world. First of all, welcome, Mr. Tajinder. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great day.
Yeah, it's so nice to have someone who talks about investing, because we've seen there's a trend in Gen Z who want to invest. So they don't want to just stay to a 9-to-5 job. But the very first question here should be, you're here to talk about global investing, right? We saw so many regions here that you've worked in or your companies work in. Let's start with, what is global investing to you?
Global investing. Let's start with a simple question. What phone do you use?
I use an Android phone. I recently bought a Flip 7 Samsung.
Yeah. So if you look at your phone, your chips were built in Taiwan. They were probably assembled in China.
Nice.
And there was 20 countries involved in doing the supply chain for it. There were probably satellites across the world being used for tracking the delivery of your product. So the value that got created by your purchase of that phone actually created value for maybe 20, 50, or 100 odd different companies.
Nice.
When you're investing, you need to be global in your investments as well. We are consuming globally today. We are picking up our products, which is based in US, Italy, France, China, India, UAE, all these places. But it's very stark when we are investing. We only think about companies that we look around us that are listed on our local stock exchanges.
Yeah.
So that's what global investing is, going beyond the borders and looking at the entire world as one single village where you can also invest as well.
Yeah, and we've spent decades. We saw at least 2 decades in this, institutional trading mainly. What structural advantage do you see institutions still retain that retail platforms haven't fully closed? Let's talk about some of the platforms here that we use. There's Thunder from Egypt, there's Serva, there's eToro, which is here, works here, born somewhere else. We have Robinhood Markets coming. There's so many platforms, but what is it about the structural advantage of institutions which are created before all of these things?
Okay, there are 2 trains of thoughts for it. One is the standard train of thought that says institutional investors have much more research available to them. They have much more infrastructure available to them. They have access to, maybe in some cases, more channel checks and privilege informations, faster access to market execution. That's one train of thought. But the other train of thought, which pretty much nobody talks about it, and that goes to the a sense of question, why do we talk about institutional investors versus retail investors? Why do we talk about smart money versus dumb money? Why do we talk about, someone has an advantage, the other one does not have an advantage? And it goes towards the structure. I've worked on Wall Street long enough. We've seen both the buy side of the business and the sell side. Buy side means you're investing, and sell side means you are selling something for someone else to invest. There are about 50,000 stocks listed across the world.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't sound like a lot. There are 78 exchanges across the world. There is $147 trillion that's locked up in these 50,000 stocks.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And it looks much bigger when you think of it. The global wealth is only maybe $500 trillion. So 1/3 of the global wealth is in these 50,000 stocks. Amazing story. We want people to invest. We want people to come into it. But that's where the big but comes in. There are 50,000 stocks, which means only 50,000 companies went to public.
Yeah.
Right? They only paid their investment bankers once when they go to an IPO, right? So there's only one, so there are 50,000 times that they paid them. As per estimates, there are about 200,000 salespeople working in brokerage industry just in the US.
Just in the US.
Just in the US. Expand that globally, a rough estimate is about 1 million people across the world working in the sales department of brokerages, CFD brokers, stock broker, derivative broker, option brokers, stuff, so on and so forth. 1 million salespeople trying to sell those 50,000 stocks, only those 50,000 stocks. So there are 200 people per stock trying to sell it to the people.
Wow.
That's too much of a sales pressure.
Yeah.
The first problem is mis-selling, misrepresentation of information.
Yes.
The second And the much bigger question is, who's paying for it?
Yeah, who's paying for it?
Who's paying for it, right? So someone has to pay for it. The company went public only once.
Yeah.
There are only 50,000 events that happened when investment banks got paid.
Yeah.
Who's paying this 1 million employees to keep on buying and selling the stocks? And that is where the entire essence of retail versus institutional comes in, is because there are people who probably don't understand. You have 1 million people trying to sell 50,000 stocks to maybe about 25 to 75 million traders across the world. So that's maybe one salesman trying to sell a stock to 50 people.
Yeah.
Right? And the information gets distorted. There are things that gets lost in translation. Research is available. Democratization has happened over the years. But that is what differentiates between institutional and retail investors. And very interestingly, when I was on Wall Street, I used to ask myself a question. We were managing billions of dollars for a bank called Fortis Bank back then, which is part of BNP Paribas right now. And I used to sit down with my manager, who was the managing director at that point. I was like, I look at these ads throughout the day running on TV, Bloomberg and Reuters and all this. Who's paying for it? And why are they paying for it?
Yeah.
Right? So that is where I believe there's a fundamental disconnect between the dumb and the intelligent money, which is not just access to technology. Technology is there today, which is not just access to information. There's so much information available. Pick up ChatGPT, pick up Google, pick up anything, and you can get all of those things. It's about the information, how it's presented. Does the person has enough appetite and knowledge for absorbing that information and acting upon it in a rational manner?
That's very important.
It's important.
Yeah, very important. But we've seen so many apps come up, as we were talking about institutional and retail, and they mostly target retail investors. But many investing apps promise global access. They say, oh, there's zero commission and this and that. In reality, if I'm an investor, I can only buy a fraction of the listed companies, end up paying hidden costs, this, that. Why is there such a disconnect that these things are marketed and investors don't experience it? Like if app would say, oh, we are a wealth generation app and you can trade and make wealth. You have written about all of this in your articles as well. Can you throw some light on it?
Sure. In 2023, FCA, UK's regulatory authority, they came out with a recommendation per se, which said that a lot of investment apps are showing a lot of stocks on their platform, but it is not investable, which they are telling the brokers to not show if you're not letting users invest. Most of the times we see, based on experience, there's no hard study for it, an average app has about 5,000 stocks on it, 7,000 stocks, as opposed to 50,000 stocks. Most of these stocks come from, let's say, the Teslas of the world and the Microsofts of the world that everybody loves and everybody wants to go into it. But the investment world is 50,000 stocks. We are only showing maybe 5 to 10% of that, and we are letting people only invest in that. That is where the disconnect is. That is where it's not truly global in that respect. Truly global would mean, I think that the Japanese travel industry is booming. I want to invest there. Or I look at this fusion reaction that is producing lab gold in US. I want to invest over there. Or there's something happening in Germany that is working on nanotechnology or on a chip. I want to invest over there. The truly global investment would mean all of those being available on a platform, not just the headline stocks where there's already the money has been made. There's no upside over there.
Very interesting what you said, because a lot of apps that I've personally used, sometimes I try to find a stock which I read about, oh, this. A lot of signals come in on X and on social media that this is going up or down. Usually I don't find them on a lot of apps. So now it makes sense that they don't show you the full array. They show you the top ones. Tesla is there, Nvidia will always be there, but sometimes they're missing some of the companies which you can invest in and make a lot of money. One of the apps, every day there's a habit of mine, I go to that app and I see the biggest movers that day. And some companies I haven't even thought about. I didn't even thought that this could be a company which is listed. And they've gone up 110% on that day, and I'm like, missed an opportunity there. So your data, your comment of 5,000 to 10,000 on a single app, completely true, understandable. from this perspective.
Yeah, and let me also pick one more thing up from the what you just said. So every morning you wake up, you look at the top gainers, top losers, and you're like, oh, it went up 100%.
Yeah.
Very interestingly, there was a study by I think one of the large banks, J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs. I don't remember exactly. It came many years ago. They looked at all of their investors, and they did a research to see what are the investors on our platform who are investing, who are consistently profitable or who have been profitable over a very long period of time.
Nice.
They went through it, they looked at all the data, looked at all the history of people, their investing habits, how quickly they buy, how quickly they sell, what is their education background, what is their professional background, their marital status, is he a homeowner, stuff like that. And they came up with two characteristics that every investor at large who was profitable had it. The first one was the investor forgot his password.
Oh.
The second one was investor died.
Oh.
So anyone who never came back to his app, never saw the top gainers and the top losers, never cared about it, but systematically kept investing, was always beating the guys who were actually investing.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint, but
that is so the Warren Buffett idea of investing and keeping with it like for 3-4 years or 10 years maybe.
Exactly.
Versus a day trader who's trying to game the system.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett will always win according to this study. That's a nice insight. So let's talk about trading platforms a little more. Since you're giving so many insights, it's interesting. Many investment platforms, they claim to empower the retail investor. As I said, every app, every platform says, oh, wealth building, oh, money making, oh, trade, and this. Their business model still heavily is reliant on, since they don't take any commissions, they charge a single fee. So you trade once, they charge you $1 or some percentage, it's a fixed fee. They push you to do frequent trading. And right now we said that doesn't work. Long-term investing works in stocks.
Yeah.
So why are they doing this? What does this mean? And does it change the behavior of the people investing also?
It does to a large extent, and that comes back to what I said before. So there's a term in brokerage industry. It's called ARPU, A-R-P-U, which is average revenue per user. What does that mean? That means that how much can I make from every single user who comes on my platform on an average?
Nice.
And that is how every other calculation goes. The Northern Star of an average broker is my ARPU and my number of investors who come onto it. Regulators across the world have been struggling by reducing the leverage. Let's take an example. Let's say you have $1,000 in your account, right? You get 100:1 leverage, or you get a 10:1 leverage, right? So you have $10,000. You can buy anything worth $10,000. You go and buy Apple for $10,000, and then you have to sell Apple as well for $10,000. So with your $1,000, you just made a trade for $20,000.
Oh, yes.
And we know, historically speaking, look at 2007 crash, look at 1999 crash, look at 1987, look at 1933 to 1929. Every crash is a result of leverage in the system.
Yeah.
And it also goes back to the same point I said before: is why do you have, why do you have 200 or a million salespeople trying to sell just 50,000 stocks?
Yeah.
So I believe, while it is very important for retail investors to be part of the stock market, because it is important to build your wealth that can beat inflation, that can be in line with the economies across the world and with the development that's happening. At the same time, it's very important to be educated for it, to make sure that the goal is not making money from volume. This is something that we went in India. We launched a broker 10 years ago, which became too big to fail as per some of the norms over there because of the volume we generated. It was a zero commission model, zero commission, zero clearing fees, 0. But the point was, if we make money on volume, mathematically speaking, every time you trade, not invest long term, every time you trade any derivative product, it's a zero-sum game. Your probability of making money is only 50%. You add commissions to it, it goes lower. So let's assume it's not a mutually exclusive event. You flip a coin once, you get a heads, your probability is 50%. Do it twice, 12.5%, 25%. 3 times, 12.5%. The more I make you trade, the more I create an environment where you are exposing yourself to higher risk.
Yeah.
So I believe, leverages in the system, mis-selling the system has to go away, and that is where the retail investors will thrive eventually. And that is why we don't, there was this big rush about gamification.
Yeah.
And regulators came out and said, no gamification. Why? What is the reason to have people hooked onto your application when we know people who died and forgot the passwords were the profit-making guys?
Yeah.
So that's where I believe there's a disconnect, and that's where I believe the industry has to eventually move towards for the retail investors to stay in the market.
Yeah, you're getting inside secrets here, by the way. But let's talk about the region now. Regulation is very important. This region is built on regulation, not only in trading. You talk about anything in the market, there's laws and regulation. They're very strict. They're very to the point, very explanatory. In markets like UAE, Saudi Arabia, say Bahrain, Qatar is one of the booming markets. How does it shape trust and platform design? Regulations specifically.
I think regulations are very important. It's extremely important. Regulators are what step in. If you think about it, an average person, like yourself, like myself, we sleep for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
We have 16 hours. We, on an average, work between 10 to 12 hours a day, earning whatever we are earning. So you're actually spending 75% of your prime lifespan on making money.
Yeah.
It's probably the most sensitive topic after your health. That is your wealth. That's why health and wealth goes together, right? Regulators step in over there and make sure that the brokers or the industry participants are doing the right thing. It's very important to bring in the sanity into the system that is required by the regulators. I think Middle East is doing amazing. There's a reason why every family office now looks at Middle East or looks at Dubai as a must-have jurisdiction, because it's the opportunity that's here, regulated opportunity that's here, very well controlled ecosystem, so things don't really go wrong, from small things like forgetting your phone on the table to even the larger things. You're covered. So regulation is extremely important to make sure that we do the right thing for people who don't understand something as complicated as finance.
Just from your point of that 75% of life, recently I read very interesting thing, and since it's a little off topic, but I heard some stories, some opinion pieces on a lot of big platforms, actually FT, Bloomberg, all them. They're talking about a 24-hour trading market, because crypto is a 24-hour trading market and they want to compete with that. Crypto is becoming, the last few months have been bad for crypto, but again, they want to turn it. What is your personal opinion, since you've worked in this? Would you be in favor, or if you're against, what are the main points that you'll be against it? A 24-hour trading market, like for example, the Davos will be open 24 hours, New York Stock Exchange 24 hours. Can it work?
It is an eventuality. What happens today? And what happened 15, 20 years ago? You go, you buy a stock on your platform, and you're done. You go back home. But there's a whole plethora of events that happen afterward. The stock, the message goes to the exchange. Exchange passes the message on to the clearing member. Clearing members then settle among themselves all the monies and the stocks, and the dematerialized records are updated, and your delivery happens T+2. Practically, the stock that you bought on Monday is not owned by you until Wednesday.
Oh, yes.
Why? Only 50,000 stocks, and all of these guys also working in the back office to settle them. 24-hour trading is not just about trading and being able to trade whenever you want. It's about access, and it's about simplified access. It's about simplified settlement of the access. It's about, why do you have to open your investment app when you're sitting at work? Why can't you do it when you're sipping a coffee at home and you read something on Bloomberg or Reuters? Oh, this is a good idea. Maybe can I see it now? Can I invest in it right now? Oh no, I have to come back tomorrow.
Or the market is closed, can't do anything. Or wait for at least pre-market, right?
Wait for
and
pre-market.
Pre-market is usually, as soon as you reach the pre-market stage, the stock is already shot up. You missed your chance.
Or you forgot.
Or you forgot. Happens to me a lot. I'm like, wait, I'll do it. And then I get stuck in something and I'm like, missed an opportunity. Happened to me with Figma recently. The stock was, I think, $30-something. pre-market, I was like, it is going to go up. It was a technology one after a long time. I was like, 100% goes up. All the indicators, everything was clear. I forgot about it. And then when the market opened, I was like, I'll buy it pre-market, whatever price. Market opened at 80. And I was like, oh no. So 30, maybe if in pre-market I would have bought it for 40, 50 even. There was a very good upside. So you're completely true in this. Investors, let's come back to them. They think locally. A Saudi investor would prefer to invest in Saudi Arabia. UAE investors, EMAR would be their best bet, like long-term investment. Globally, I think there is a trend now going that people are investing in stocks globally, Nvidia, all these things. But other stocks that, again, we talked about are missing from platforms. Why do we need to go global with investing? Not locally only.
It is very important. The very fundamental principle of investment is diversification.
Yeah.
Right? When you're consuming products from across the world, when you're consuming products that are made in multiple countries, ideated, innovated somewhere else, manufactured somewhere else, assembled somewhere else, delivered somewhere else, when you're consuming all of that, why are you restricting your investment just to the local market? There's a local bias to it. There's a local bias because you understand MR.
Yeah.
But do you understand, let's say DLF?
Yeah.
Do you understand, GW, something else that's working somewhere else? Think of it, if you ask someone who's never traveled the world, and you go and talk to someone who's never traveled the world, what do you think about India? He'll say, I see elephants.
Yeah, that's
what do you think about Dubai? Oh, I see camels. What do you think about London? Oh, I see London Eye. What do you think about the US? Oh, I see Empire State Building.
Or Mr. Trump.
Or Mr. Trump.
I only see Mr. Trump when we talk about US.
Which might or might not change in a few years. But people who haven't traveled, they don't know until they travel for the first time what is out there, what is it that they're missing. Unless people invest globally, they would not understand what is real diversification.
Yes.
If there is a political stress in a certain country, if there is a currency crisis in another country, if there is an innovation being led into a specific country, you should be able to move across all of those boundaries. And it's not just geographical boundaries.
Yeah.
Think of it as a three-dimensional array, where on one dimension you have one country versus other country versus other country versus other country, and they all have their own regulations, they all have their own requirements. And this is only stocks. But then you go vertical. There are stocks, there are reinvestment bonds, there are mutual funds, there is startup investments, there is technology investments, there are all sorts of investments. When we talk about global, I mean global across the boundaries and across the scope of investments, which right now is not something we used to think, but how the millennial is evolving with cryptos or with information and the knowledge. I believe it's an eventuality that people will then say and ask, why didn't I do it before?
Yes. Very interestingly, we have taken out all the juice that we can, all the secret information, but we need to talk about the company. Finvasia is entering the UAE as its next major market, and how do you see the region's role in global capital flows evolving? Just building on what you've said also, recently I was reading about Ray Dalio, the all-weather idea that he has, that you should invest in Asia and Europe, so somewhere you're covered kind of a situation. Finvasia comes into UAE. What is it that you're providing? What is your USP? How do you come in? I see the USP already, to be honest, the experience and the knowledge, but what should we expect from Finvasia?
See, Finvasia, we work across, health and wealth, like I said, most important, and then there are other things like real estate and technology, stuff like that. There is a basic founding principle of Finvasia as a company that we look at traditional businesses and we see how we can re-engineer it to be more forward-looking, to be more problem-solving for long term.
Nice.
Every business that we launch is with a vision of 25 to 50 years. And we tend to build slowly, we tend to build for the long term. We look at Middle East and UAE, and we look at an amazing growth story which is unprecedented.
Yes.
I used to come to, the first time I came to UAE was in 1996.
Wow.
And I went to City Center Mall, which was the biggest mall at that point, and I was amazed. Oh wow, I can buy all these toys.
Yes.
And now I look at it and I see how it has evolved. We believe we would want to be part of the story. It's very important. We believe there are a lot of problems that we can solve. For example, within capital market ecosystem, like we discussed about, there are fundamental disconnects on how investors are treated. They're not treated badly. There's nothing, but it could be done better. It could be done for a long-term perspective for creating real wealth for the long term. So when we come into any market or when we come into any product, we spend years and years researching and working on that product. And we believe we would like to bring certain products here in UAE, which is really it's like a hot pot of the entire world coming together over here. We are not just looking at UAE when we are here. We're looking at the whole world. And all the affluent classes from across the world that invest are sitting over here.
Yeah.
So that's how we look at the region, and we hope we are able to do justice to it.
14,000 plus millionaires was predicted to move in 2025. 2025 has ended recently. So imagine that's just millionaires, 14,000. There's like middle class, upper middle class. Then obviously billionaires obviously will bring in a lot of money. But as you said, melting hot pot of everything. As you approach launch, investor principles, what are you not going to compromise on if I want to invest? Or anyone wants to invest?
I think the most important thing is what we spoke about. We make sure that people are educated enough.
Yeah.
They are not investing in what they should not invest in.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. We want them to have access to pretty much anything and everything. It should be, when we first looked at brokerage industry many, many years ago, and we believe we changed the brokerage industry, in India meaningfully on how we launched our product over there. We believe we would want to bring in all these principles into something that would redefine how the future of investments happen.
And when can we see the platform?
And
how would it look like? What can you tell us? Like, openly, what can you tell us?
We will be
Public
launching
knowledge.
we'll be launching our waiting list soon.
Okay.
We'll start providing access
Nice.
slowly to people, based on the waiting list.
Nice.
And we should be coming with it soon in that respect.
If you've listened to this whole interview, to be honest, just talking to the listeners and viewers, if you listen to the interview and if you've missed the starting part, look at it from the start and then invest or go on the platform. You'll 100% be satisfied. Last question, conversations about the decade-long program, Saudi Vision 2030, UAE's vision, there's a Centennial Vision 2071. How do you expect the world to move on? It's a very good time to do an interview with you because 2026 just started. 2025 was all about AI. It was AI stocks, AI this, AI that. I think most of the market was AI stocks, right? NVIDIA jumped, everyone jumped. What is, you think, the best category, maybe company, not financial advice, but from your experience, what is the next frontier after AI? Or is it going to be another year for AI?
I believe it's evolution. If I go back, 1990s was all about, tech bubble, internet. 2000 to 2007 was all about remortgages and, yields. And then there were, blockchain was very hot, and then there is AI. I believe this is all evolution. We will see more evolution coming in. Technology is going faster than ever before. We'll see a lot more technology coming into healthcare, longevity. We'll see a lot more technology coming into existential things that really matter. I believe AI is beautiful. I personally don't think it's there yet. I think we need to let it mature enough before we try to, pick the last dime from in front of the bulldozer. So I believe we need to look at all these trends. We need to invest wisely, diversify enough. But I believe that there will be a lot more innovation happening in terms of, merger of technology and humans together that might form another frontier.
Meta-humans, maybe, or Terminators, maybe. But just last question, very quick yes or no answer. XAI, we did a story in the morning about it, that XAI raised $20 billion recently. We have a AI fund, and state-backed AI fund, MGX, they invested, Qatar Investment Authority invested. They most probably will go for an IPO. OpenAI, everyone is saying they're going to IPO at $1 trillion. I think that's historic. I think no company ever valued at 1 trillion at their IPO. I think it never happened, right? So all these things are happening where capital markets are doing something extraordinary every year. We saw first $4 trillion company market cap for Nvidia. Microsoft touched, came back. All of these things are happening. Is it a good time to enter, or do you think like it's now going to stabilize, not peak more?
I would say enter if you are willing to hold on to it for next 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's the basic motto when you're investing or when you're trading anything for that reason. If you're comfortable, yes. But if you look at, if you pick up, all the historical archives of Bloomberg, let's say, for example, and you look at every single year, you will find stories that this has never happened before in the world.
Yeah.
So I believe it doesn't matter what's happening right now that hasn't happened before in the world. Maybe inflation adjusted 1 trillion would look similar to Facebook or Google in their times, or would look similar to, who knows what are the stocks at their time. However, investment should be long term, and if it is going to sustain for next 10 years is when investment becomes meaningful.
Very good idea. Invest very wisely, but invest for long term. Yes. I think that would be the crux of the whole thing. Thank you, Mr. Tajinder Virk. Trust me, if you've never heard any of our shows and you're listening it to the first time, this is the best you get. This is what Smashi Business Show is all about. More information, more secrets. I've never interviewed a person, I'll say this honestly, that who knows the market inside out like this. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us all. If you're listening, great. You should watch also. Listen to it again. You'll learn a lot. Thank you so much. Subscribe to our newsletter. It goes out every day. The link is in bio. And apart from that, we are on all social media channels. Subscribe wherever you want your news. WhatsApp, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want your news. We're there at Smashi Business. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.